Imagine stepping into a stone womb where your voice fills the air and refuses to die, notes folding back as if the rock itself remembers them.
I am Dr. Elias Thorn. This is Stargate Codex.
Archaeologists and acoustic engineers have logged consistent, measurable phenomena: sustained harmonics inside Newgrange's core-belled chamber, frequency focal points in the Ħal-Saflieni Hypogeum, extraordinary speech clarity across Hellenistic theaters, and focused sound in subterranean Mithraea beneath Roman basilicas. These are not casual echoes. They are repeatable acoustic signatures tied to specific architectural choices.
These observations force a simple conclusion. The usual narrative that sophisticated aural engineering appears late in history deserves re-examination. The anomaly is both structural and documentary. Stone cavities and carved vaults with predictable acoustic behavior appear earlier than mainstream timelines allow. How did practitioners create those effects, and how did that knowledge travel?
Our method is strict. Text before speculation. We assemble primary inscriptions, contemporary architectural treatises, ritual liturgies, lodge manuals, and select Vatican holdings. Every claim is cross-referenced to dated manuals and measured field data. Consider the pyramid texts, the classical architects, the Mithraic corpus, and the later Rosicrucian and Golden Dawn ordinals, all read together.
Start with the pyramid texts, unexpectedly technical. These utterances occur on stone and in palace copies. Several prescribe vocal rites inside cavities and hollows. They read like instructions for oral manipulation, not merely theology.
Let the voice be born on the belly of the stone.
That line is recorded in fragments catalogued in the Gardner sequence and preserved under siglum ALD-PYT-17 in Skye Alden's registers. The passage names position, tonal range, and an intended effect to make the underworld hear, which reads as procedural guidance for producing cavity resonance.
Move forward to the Mediterranean classical corpus. Vitruvius dedicates sections of De Architectura to theater geometry, seat curvature, wall angles, material selection, explicitly to preserve intelligibility. Pliny comments on constructions that change sound behavior. These sources codify acoustic know-how in practical terms. They do not invent the phenomena, but translate practice into treatise.
At the same time, ritual texts operationalize that codified knowledge. Mithraic liturgical fragments, preserved in inscriptions and manuscripts, cross-referenced as Vat Myth 58 in the Vatican Matrix and annotated in Alden's compilation, include stage directions that align with architectural asymmetries. Speak from the southwest niche. Hold the low tone while the initiate descends.
That is not theatrical flourish. Vat Myth 58 instructs placement and intonation, specific operational variables that interact with the room's geometry to create a focalized auditory event. Field acoustics at several recorded Mithraea confirm these focal points and the predicted chest-level resonance. The archaeological measurements align with the texts. Newgrange's core-belled chamber shows nodal resonance consistent with a designed cavity, not random echo. Ħal-Saflieni's subterranean loci produce persistent frequency bands when excited by low vocal tones. In measured spectra, longer decay times occur at frequencies targeted by ritual chants. The physical data matches the ritual prescriptions.
Later, within esoteric orders, the practice becomes explicit and experimentally recorded. Skye Alden's registers contain Rosicrucian ordinals and Golden Dawn stage notes, ALD Rosicrucian.12 and ALD-GD.03 among them, that describe lighting, niche placement, and voice projection for higher degree initiations.
Speak the name when positioned within the vaulted alcove, so the name returns thrice as one.
Golden Dawn laboratory notes record deliberate syllabic elongation to test sympathetic resonance in ritual rooms. The Rosicrucian ordinals instruct how a return of voice reinforces mnemonic and affective states. These are experimental operational records, testable procedures with measurable outcomes.
We must acknowledge objections. Some acoustic signatures may result from later alterations or coincidental geometry. That critique was valid, so we apply a corroboration filter. Independent strata must align. Textual prescription, measured physical signature, and intermediate documentary continuity. When these three converge, the probability of intentionality rises markedly.
Trace the transmission not as a single lineage, but as a chain of practice. Egyptian temple schools trained priest engineers in vocal technique and cavity shaping. Hellenistic tutors absorbed geometric practice. Roman cult builders adapted both into enclosed Mithraea. Medieval lodges reused subterranean chapels. Early modern esoteric circles then refined staging into manuals. The Knights Templar, the Priory Registers, and Carbonari meeting notes show operational functions, access to quarries, vaulting methods, and site selection that preserve acoustic properties.
Consider the technical pattern. Practitioners created cavities tuned to emphasize sustained low frequencies. They placed reflective niches to focus sound at specific loci. Rituals prescribe elongated vowels and chest resonance to match those cavities. Light cues are timed with sound to create compound sensory anchors. The combined effect is reliable: memory encoding, heightened suggestibility, and controlled revelation.
Receiving the voice and returning it thrice.
That phrase appears in an Alexandrian testimony describing underground telesteria and is echoed in lodge manuals centuries later. When words recur in text and stones respond acoustically, we are not simply witnessing shared metaphor. We are seeing a reproducible technology, an oral codex preserved across epochs.
Skye Alden's comparative matrix, see entries ALDCX01 through ALDCX07 in the appendix, maps dimensions, material densities, and ritual syllabic patterns to documented outcomes. That comparative codification is the core claim. Acoustic architecture functioned as a deliberate technology of initiation, and secret networks acted as custodians, preserving and adapting those protocols as political and cultural contexts shifted.
A specific example: a reconstructed Roman subterranean Mithraeum shows the sanctuary niche offset by 1.2 meters and flanked by curved benches. That geometry produces a defined acoustic focus at chest height when the officiant stands in the niche. The ritual script preserved under VAT Myth 58 prescribes a low sustained intonation at that point. Physical plan and textual directive match to the centimeter.
Limits remain. Not every resonance proves design. Not every ritual names precise metrics. We therefore confine interpretive claims to texts and plans that explicitly reference oral practice or to in situ measured signatures. Where evidence is circumstantial, we flag it and provide full manuscript references and raw measurements in the show notes for verification.
When we read the texts beside the stones, a repeating mechanism emerges. Stone, voice, and rite form a transmissible craft. Temple schools, Hellenistic architects, Roman cult builders, and esoteric manuals preserve operational knowledge that can be measured and reproduced. That is the Codex. Not a conspiracy of claims, but a documented set of design principles and ritual practices encoded into architecture and liturgy.
The archive never lies. The text remains. For further study, the show notes include an archival appendix with manuscript sigla, translated excerpts, and bibliographic citations from Skye Alden's registers, Gardner-referenced pyramid fragments, Vitruvian passages, Plinian notes, Mithraic liturgies, Rosicrucian ordinals, and Golden Dawn experiments. Researchers with measured acoustic data or manuscript access are invited to contribute via the contact link in the notes.
Our claim is historical and technical. It is verifiable by measurement and text. That concludes our historical tracking of this specific anomaly within the Codex. The records demonstrate that behind the curtain of standard history lies a repeating, systemic mechanism of knowledge transmission and governance, preserved across generations. We have laid out the timeline, parsed the primary source texts, and exposed the architectural blueprint. The archive remains open for those who know how to read it.